Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Moving right along. Gonna get as many books and as many things as I can in. Before I start, please make sure you hit that like button. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. YouTube is doing it again. It does it by 2s or 3s. I'm on to you. And share if you haven't done so other people can learn and spread the knowledge. You never know who's going to take to what. If you have ever gotten a light bulb moment, a mic drop, a new book that you would like to explore, an epiphany, a connect the dot, if you have it within you to support my work, I would very much highly appreciate it, as I live in communism and I need as much help as I can possibly get. And I appreciate it with the bottom of my heart. I really do. With all the gratitude of a lot of people that do and go out of their way for me, I really do appreciate it. Paper 27, Ministry of the Primary Supernaphim. And I don't, again, know if I'm saying that properly. I'm sure I have a few people that can tell me. Just reading that title reminds me of a certain book with the year after I was born, which I was born 1983. So what book was that? Yeah. Sounds very much like that, but I bet it's not. But just, I'm on to you. So primary supernaphim are the supernal servants of the deities on the external isle of paradise. Never have they been known to depart from the paths of light and righteousness. The roll calls are complete. From eternity, not one of this magnificent host has been lost. These high supernaphim are perfect beings, supreme in perfection, but they are not absentite. Neither are they absolute. Being of the essence of perfection, these children of the infinite spirit work interchangeably and at will in all phases of their manifold duties. They do not function exclusively outside paradise, though they do participate in the various millennial gatherings and group reunions of the central universe. They also go forth as special messengers of the deities, and in large numbers they ascend to become technical advisors. Primary supernaphim are also placed in the command of the Seraphic hosts, ministering on worlds isolated because of rebellion. I'm curious if they're here because, well, rebellion. When a paradise sun is bestowed upon such a world, completes his mission, ascends to the universal Father, is accepted and returns as the accredited deliverer of this isolated world. A primary supernaphim is always designated by the chiefs of the assessment to assume command of the ministering spirits on duty in the newly reclaimed sphere. Supernaphim in this special service are periodically rotated. On Urantia, the present chief of Seraphim is the second of this order to be only duty since the times of the bestowal of Christ Michael. Remember, it's an office. From eternity, the primary supernaphim have served on the Isle of Light and have gone forth on missions of leadership. Sorry, guys. To the worlds of space, but they have functioned as now classified only since the arrival on paradise of the Havona pilgrims of time. These high angels now minister chiefly to the following 7 orders of service: conductors of worship, masters of philosophy, custodians of knowledge, directors of conduct, interpreters of ethics, chiefs of assignment, instigators of rest. I like to fall in all of those. That'd be really cool. Not until the ascending pilgrims actually obtain paradise residence do they come under the direct influence of these Supernaphim. And then they pass through a training experience under the direction of these angels in the reverse order of their naming. That is, you enter upon your paradise career under the tutelage of the investigators of rest, and after successive seasons with the intervening orders, finishing the training period with the conductors of worship. Thereupon, are you ready to begin the endless career of finaliter? We never stop working, guys. Investigators of rest. The investigators of rest are the inspectors of paradise who go forth from the central isle to the inner circuit of Pravona, there to collaborate with their colleagues, the complements of rest of the secondary order of Supernaphim. The one essential to the enjoyment of paradise is rest, divine rest, and these instigators of rest are the final instructors who make ready the pilgrims of time for their introduction to eternity. They begin their work on the final attainment circle of the central universe and continue it when the pilgrim awakes from the last transition sleep, the slumber which graduates a creature of space into the realm of the eternal. Rest is of a centerfold nature. There is the rest of sleep and of play in the lower life orders, discovery in the higher beings, and worship in the highest type of spirit personality. There is also the normal rest of energy intake, the recharging of beings with physical or spiritual energy. And then there is transit sleep, the unconscious slumber when insuffirmed, when in passage from one sphere to another. Entirely different from all of these is the deep sleep of metamorphosis, the transition rest from one stage of being to another, from one life to another, from one state of existence to another. The sleep which ever attends transition from actual universe status to contrast to evolution through various degrees of any one status. Sorry. I have these really tiny little things flying, and it's going to be summer soon, and that happens. I'm hoping my spiders come back and start eating them. But the last metamorphic sleep is something more than those previous transition slumbers, which have marked the successive status attainments of the ascendant career. Thereby do the creatures of time and space traverse the innermost margins of the temporal and spatial to obtain residential status in the timeless and spaceless abodes of paradise. The investigators and the complements of rest are just as essential to the transitioning metamorphosis as are the seraphim and associated beings to the mortal creatures of survival of death. You enter the rest on the final Havona circuit and are eternally resurrected on paradise. And as you there spiritually repersonalize, you will immediately recognize the investigator of rest, who welcomes you to the eternal shores as the very primary Supernaphim who produced the final sleep on the innermost circuit of Havona. And you will recall the last grand stretch of faith as you once again made ready to command the keeping of your identity into the hands of the Universal Father. The last rest of time has been enjoyed. The last transition sleep has been experienced. Now you will wake to life everlasting on the shores of the eternal abode. And there shall be no more sleep. The presence of God and his sons are before you, and you are eternally his servants. You have seen his face, and his name is your spirit. There shall be no night there, and there need no light of the sun, for the great source and center gives them light. They shall live forever and ever. And God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death. Neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things have passed away. That's deep. It's very deep. Chiefs of Assignment. This is the group designated from time to time by the Chief Supernaphim, the original pattern angel, to preside over the organization of all three orders of these angels, primary, secondary, and tertiary. The Supernaphim as a body are wholly self-governing and self-regulatory, except for the functions of their mutual chief, the first angel of paradise, who ever presides over all these spirit personalities. The angels of assignment have much to do with glorified mortal residents of paradise before they are admitted to the corpse of the finality. Study and instruction are not the exclusive occupants of paradise arrivals. Service also plays its essential part in the pre-finaliter educational experience of paradise. And I have observed that when the ascendant mortals have periods of leisure, they evince a predilection to fraternize with the reserve corpse of the superaphic chiefs of assignment. When you mortal ascenders obtain paradise, your societal relationships involve a great deal more than contact with a host of exalted and divine beings and with the familiar multitude of glorified fellow mortals. You must also fraternize with upwards of 3,000 different orders of paradise citizens, with the various groups of the transcendentals, and with numerous other types of paradise inhabitants, permanent and transient, who have not been revealed on Urantia. After sustained contact with these mighty intellects of paradise, it is very restful to visit with the angelic types of mind. They remind the mortals of time of the seraphim, with whom they have had such long contact and such refreshing association. Interpreters of ethics. We could sure use a lot of that right now in our paradigm. The higher you ascend in the scale of life, the more attention you must be paid to universal ethics. Ethical awareness is simply the recognition by any individual of the rights inherited in the existence of any and all other individuals. But spiritual ethics far transcends the mortal and even the Urantia concept of personal and group relations. Ethics has been duly taught and adequately learned by the pilgrims of time in their long ascent to the glories of paradise. As this inward ascending career has unfolded from the nativity worlds of space, the ascenders have continued to add group after group to their ever-widening circle of universe associates. Every new group of colleagues adds one more level of ethics to be recognized and complied with until by the time the mortals ascend each paradise, they really need someone to provide helpful and friendly counsel regarding ethical interpretations. They do not need to be taught ethics, but they do need to have what they have so laboriously learned properly interpreted to them as they are brought face to face with the extraordinary task of containing with so much that is new. The interpreters of ethics are an inestimable assistant to the paradise arrivals in helping them to adjust to numerous groups of majestic beings during that eventful period, extending from the attainment of residential status to formal induction into the corpse of mortal finaliters. Many of the numerous types of paradise citizens, the ascended pilgrims, have already met on the 7 circuits of Ravona. The glorified mortals have also enjoyed intimate contact with the creature trinitized sons of the conjoint corpse on the inner Ravona circuit, where these beings are receiving much of their education. And on the other circuits, the ascending pilgrims have met numerous unrevealed residents of the Paradise Ravona system, who are there pursuing group training in preparation for the unrevealed assignments of the future. All these celestial companionships are invariably mutual. As ascending mortals, you not only derive benefit from these successive universe companions and such numerous orders of increasingly divine associates, but you also impart to each of these fraternal beings something from your own personality and experience, which forever makes every one of them different and better for you, for having been associated with an ascending mortal from the evolutionary worlds of time and space. Directors of conduct. We can use that right now too. Having already been fully instructed in the ethics of paradise relationships, neither meaningless formalities nor the dictations of artificial castes, but rather the inherent properties the ascendant mortals find it helpful to receive, the counsel of the superific directors of conduct who instruct the new members of Paradise Society in the usage of perfect conduct of the high beings who sojourn on the central isle of light and life. Harmony is the keynote of the central universe, and detectable order prevails on Paradise. Proper conduct is essential to progress by way of knowledge through philosophy to the spiritual heights of spontaneous worship. There is a divine technique in the approach to divinity, and the acquirement of this technique must await the pilgrim's arrival on Paradise. The spirit of it has been imparted on the circles of Ravona, but the final touches of training of the pilgrims of time can be applied only after they actually obtain the Isle of Light. All Paradise conduct is wholly spontaneous, in every sense natural and free, but there still is a proper and perfect way of doing things on the Eternal Isle. And the directors of conduct are ever by the side of the strangers within the gates, to instruct them and so guide their steps as to put them at perfect ease, and at the same time to enable the pilgrims to avoid that confusion and uncertainty which would otherwise be invariable. Only by such an arrangement could endless confusion be avoided, and the confusion never appears on Paradise. These directors of conduct really serve as glorified teachers and guides. They are chiefly concerned with instructing the new mortal residents regarding the almost endless array of new situations and unfamiliar usages, notwithstanding all the long preparation thereof. For the long journey thereto, Paradise is still inexpressibly strange and unexpectedly new to those who finally obtain resident status. Makes sense. The Custodians of Knowledge. The superific Custodians of Knowledge are the higher living epistles known and read by all who dwell on Paradise. They are the divine records of truth, the living books of real knowledge. You heard about records in the book of life. The Custodians of Knowledge are just such living books, records of perfection imprinted upon the eternal tablets of divine life and supreme surety. They are in reality living automatic libraries. The facts of the universe are inherent in these primary supernaphim, actually recorded in these angels, and it is also inherently impossible for an untruth to gain lodgment in the minds of these perfect and replete repositories of truth of eternity and the intelligence of time. These custodians conduct informal courses of instruction for the residents of the Eternal Isle, but their chief function is that of the reference and verification. Any sojourner on Paradise may at will have by his side the living repository of the particular fact or truth he may wish to know. At the northern extremity of the isle, there are available the living finders of knowledge, who will designate the director of the group holding the information sought, and forthwith will appear the brilliant beings who are the very thing you wish to know. No longer must you seek enlightenment from engrossed pages. Now you commune with living intelligence face to face. Supreme knowledge you thus obtain from the living beings who are its final custodians. Pause. If this is such a thing, there is one person that would be this in the living flesh, and that would be JQ, Jason Q. Wow. When you locate that Supernaphim, who is exactly what you desire to verify, you will find available all the known facts of all the universes, for these custodians of knowledge are the final and living summaries of the vast network of the recording angels, ranging from the seraphim and secundaphim of the local and super universes to the chief recorders of the tertiary Supernaphim in Harvona. And this living accumulation of knowledge is distinct from the formal records of paradise, the cumulative summary of the universal history. The wisdom of truth takes origin in the divinity of the central universe, but knowledge, experimental knowledge, largely has its beginning in the domains of time and space. Therefore, the necessity for the maintenance of the far-flung super-universe organizations of the recording seraphim and Supernaphim, sponsored by the celestial recorders. These primary Supernaphim, who are inherently in possession of universe knowledge, are also responsible for its organization and classification. In computing themselves with the living reference library of the universe of universes, they have classified knowledge into 7 grand orders, each having about 1 million subdivisions. The faculty which the residents of paradise can consult this vast store of knowledge is solely due to the voluntary and wise efforts of the custodians of knowledge. The custodians are also the exalted teachers of the central universe, freely giving out their living treasures to all beings on any of the Harvona circuits, and they are extensively through indirectly utilized by the courts of the Ancients of Days. But these living library, which is available to the central and super universes, is not accessible to the local creations. Only by indirection and reflectivity are the benefits of paradise knowledge secured in the local universe. Well said. Masters of philosophy. Next to the supreme satisfaction of worship is the exhilaration of philosophy. Never do you climb so high or advance so far that there do not remain 1,000 mysteries which demand the employment of philosophy in the attempted solution. The master philosophers of paradise delight to lead the minds of the inhabitants, both native and ascendant, in the exhilarating pursuit of obtaining to solve universe problems. These superific masters of philosophy are the wise men of heaven, the beings of wisdom who make use of the truth of knowledge and the facts of experience in their efforts to master the unknown. With them, knowledge obtains to truth and experience ascends to wisdom. On paradise, the ascended personalities of space experience the heights of being. They have knowledge, they know the truth, they may philosophize, think the truth, they may even seek to encompass the concepts of the ultimate and attempt to grasp the techniques of the absolutes. At the southern extremity of the vast paradise domain, the master of philosophy conduct elaborate courses in the 70 functional divisions of wisdom. Here they discourse upon the plans and purpose of infinity and seek to coordinate the experiences and to compose the knowledge of all who have access to their wisdom. I want that job. They have developed a highly specialized attitude towards various universal problems, but their final conclusions are always in uniform agreement. These paradise philosophers teach every possible method of instruction, including the higher graphic technique of Harvona and certain paradise methods of communicating information. All of these higher techniques of imparting knowledge and conveying ideas are utterly beyond the comprehension capacity of even the most highly developed human mind. 1 hour's instruction on paradise would be the equivalent of 10,000 years of the word memory methods of Urantia. You cannot grasp such communication techniques, and there is simply nothing in mortal experience with which they may be compared, nothing which they can be likened. The masters of philosophy take supreme pleasure in imparting their interpretation of the universe of universes to those beings who have ascended from the worlds of space. And while philosophy can never be as settled in its conclusions as the facts of knowledge and the truths of experience, yet when you have listened to these primary Supernaphim discourse upon the unsolved problems of eternity and the performances of the absolutes, you will feel a certain and lasting satisfaction concerning these unmastered questions. These intellectual pursuits of paradise are not broadcast. The philosophy of perfection is available only to those who are personally present. The encircling creations know of these teachings only from those who have passed through this experience and who have subsequently carried this wisdom out to the universes of space. I'm in. Are you in? I'm in. Deal. There's a lot of jobs I want, but this is a good one. For real. Conductors of worship. Worship is the highest privilege and the first duty of all created intelligences. Worship is the conscious and joyous act of recognizing and acknowledging the truth and fact of the intimate and personal relationships of the creators with their creatures. The quality of worship is determined by the depth of creature perception, and as knowledge of the infinite character of the gods progresses, the act of worship becomes increasingly all-encompassing until it eventually obtains the glory of the highest experimental delight and the most exquisite pleasure known to creature beings. While the Isle of Paradise contains certain places of worship, it is more nearly one vast sanctuary of divine service. Worship is the first and dominant passion of all who climb to its blissful shores. The spontaneous ebullition of the beings who have learned enough of God to obtain the presence. Circle by circle during the inward journey through Havona, worship is a growing passion until on Paradise, it becomes necessary to direct and otherwise control its expression. The periodic spontaneous group and other special outbursts of supreme admiration and spiritual praise enjoyed on Paradise are conducted under the leadership of a special corps of primary Supernaphim. Under the direction of these conductors of worship, such homage achieves the creature goal of supreme pleasure and obtains the heights of the perfection of sublime self-expression and pleasure and personal enjoyment. After primary Supernaphim crave to be conductors of worship, and all ascended beings would enjoy forever remaining in the attitude of worship, did not the chiefs of assignment periodically disperse these assemblages? But no ascended being is ever required to enter upon the assignment of eternal service until he has obtained full satisfaction in worship. In its task of conductors of worship, so to teach the ascending creatures how to worship, that they may be enabled to gain this satisfaction of self-expression and at the same time be able to give attention to the essential activities of the Paradise regime. Without improvement in the technique of worship, it would require hundreds of years for the average mortal who reaches Paradise to give full and satisfactory expression to his emotions of intelligent appreciation and ascendant gratitude. The conductors of worship open up new and hereto unknown avenues of expression, so that these wonderful children of the womb of space and travail of time are enabled to gain the full satisfaction of worship in much less time. All the arts of all the beings of the entire universe, which are capable of intensifying and exhilarating the abilities of self-expression and the conveyance of appreciation, are employed to their highest capacity in the worship of Paradise deities. Worship is the highest joy of Paradise existence. It is the refreshing play of Paradise. What play does for your jaded minds on earth, worship will do for your perfected souls on Paradise. The mode of worship on paradise is utterly beyond mortal comprehension, but the spirit of it you can begin to appreciate even down here on Urantia. For the spirits of the gods even now indwell you, hover over you, and inspire you to truly worship. There are appointed times and places for worship on paradise, but these are not adequate to accommodate the ever-increasing overflow of spiritual emotions, of the growing intelligence and expanding divinity recognized on the brilliant beings of experimental ascension to the eternal isle. Never since the times of Grand Fadia have the Supernaphim been able fully to accommodate the spirit of worship on paradise. Always is there an excess of worshipfulness as gauged by the preparation thereof. And this is because personalities are inherent, perfect, never can fully the tremendous reactions of the spiritual emotions of beings who have slowly and laboriously made their way upward to paradise glory for the depths of their spiritual darkness of the lower worlds of time and space. When such angels and mortals of time attend the presence of the powers of paradise, there occurs the expression of the accumulative emotions of the ages, a speculate astounding to the angels of paradise and productive of the supreme joy and divine satisfaction in paradise deities. Sometimes all paradise becomes engulfed in a dominating tide of spiritual and worshipful expression. Often the conductors of worship cannot control such phenomena until the appearance of the threefold fluctuation of light of the deity abode, signifying that the divine heart of the gods have been fully perfect citizens of glory and the ascended creatures of time. What a triumph of technique! What a fruition of the eternal plane and purpose of gods, that the intelligent love of the creature child should give full satisfaction to the infinite love of the Creator Father. After the attainment of the supreme satisfaction of the fullness of worship, you are qualified for admission to the corpse of the finality. The ascendant career is well nigh finished, and the seventh Jubilee prepares for the celebration. The first Jubilee marked the mortal agreement with the thought adjuster when the purpose to survive was sealed. The second was the awakening in the Urantia life. The third was the fusion with the thought adjuster. The fourth was the awakening in Harvona. The fifth celebrated the finding of the Universal Father. And the sixth Jubilee was the occasion of the Paradise awakening from the final transit slumber of time. The seventh Jubilee marks entrance into the mortal finaliter corpse and the beginning of eternity service. The attainment of the seventh stage of spirit realization by a finaliter will probably signalize the celebration of the first of the Jubilees of eternity. And thus ends the story of the Paradise Supernaphim, the highest order of all the ministering spirits. Those beings who, as a universal class, ever attend your world of your origin until you are finally bidden farewell by the conductors of worship as you take the Trinity oath of eternity and muster into the mortal corpse of finality. The endless service of the Paradise Trinity is about to begin, and now the finaliter is face to face with the challenge of God, the ultimate. And that, my friends, ends the ministry of the Primary Supernaphim. Wow. That's all I could say. Makes sense. And we were just given what steps are happening, and they say Jubilee. I wonder if the creatures of the Urantia is going to have their Jubilee soon. One could hope. I'm holding out hope. With that, I hope you enjoyed that section. Next section is Ministering Spirits of the Super Universes. I'm excited for that one. Sending each and every one of you love and light. I hope you enjoyed that. Wherever you are in the world, please be safe, be seen, do the inner work, and put the high vibes up. We need them now. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, day, afternoon, lunch, brunch, dinner, wherever you are in the world. Please be safe, be seen, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.